Tintern Abbey, by William Wordsworth. About the author. William Wordsworth was a seminal English poet who, along with Samuel Taylor Coleridge, helped to launch the Romantic Age in English literature with their joint publication, Lyrical Ballads 1798. Wordsworth is best known for his profound love of nature and his theory of poetry, which centered around the ordinary and the use of simple language to convey profound emotional experiences. His friendship with Samuel Taylor Coleridge marked a significant turning point in Wordsworth's life. Together they published Lyrical Ballads, which was groundbreaking. The preface to the second edition of this work, written primarily by Wordsworth, is often considered a manifesto of Romantic poetry. It argued for the use of everyday language in poetry and the importance of nature and emotion as poetic subjects. Wordsworth's most famous work is perhaps The Prelude, a semi-autobiographical poem of his early years which he revised and expanded a number of times. The version published posthumously in 1850 was the one upon which his reputation was to be built. Other significant poems include Lines Composed a Few Miles Above Tintern Abbey, I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud, also known as Daffodils, and the Lucy poems. Wordsworth's legacy lies in his innovative emphasis on the importance of simple, unadorned language and themes that glorify nature, emotion, and the ordinary human experiences. He believed that a deep, spiritual connection with nature was necessary for human moral and spiritual development. His works continue to be celebrated for their deep humanity and profound meditative depth. Significance of the title. The title, Lines Composed a Few Miles Above Tintern Abbey, on revisiting the banks of the Wye during a tour, July 13, 1798, is richly evocative and significant, carrying deep thematic and contextual weight. Here's a detailed exploration of its components and their significance. Lines composed a few miles above Tintern Abbey. The specificity of the location, a few miles above Tintern Abbey, suggests that the poem's reflections are rooted in a particular landscape, underlining the Romantic belief in the importance of nature and place. The reference to Tintern Abbey, a ruined Cistercian monastery established in 1131 and dissolved in 1536, evokes themes of time, decay, and the enduring quality of nature versus human constructions. Although the abbey is in ruins, its mention conjures images of its former glory and the cycles of history, paralleling Wordsworth's personal revisitation and the layers of memory that inform the poem. On revisiting the banks of the Wye during a tour. This part of the title sets the scene for a personal journey, indicating that this poem is part of a larger tour. The act of revisiting is crucial. It indicates that Wordsworth is returning to a place of previous experience, suggesting a continuity and a change over time in his perceptions and feelings. The Wye is a prominent river in the UK, known for its picturesque beauty and is a popular destination for the picturesque tourists of the 18th century. By choosing this setting, Wordsworth aligns himself with a popular tradition while also personalizing it, turning a common tourist spot into a deeply personal and spiritually significant landscape. July 13, 1798. Including the date anchors the poem in a specific moment, emphasizing the importance of time in the poem's themes. This date is not only a factual marker but also a point of reflection 5 years after his first visit in 1793, during a period of youthful innocence and before many personal and political upheavals, including the disillusionment following the French Revolution. The late 1790s were a period of intense intellectual and artistic ferment. The date places the poem in the context of Wordsworth's developing ideas about nature, humanity, and society, which were revolutionary at the time. The full title is a blend of geographic, temporal, and subjective elements, framing the poem as a meditation rooted in a specific place and time but expansive in its philosophical and emotional scope. By specifying when and where the lines were composed, Wordsworth invites the reader to share in the immediacy and intimacy of his thoughts. It suggests a sort of poetic immediacy, as if Wordsworth is crafting these lines in the moments of inspiration provided by the scenery around him. The title prepares the reader for themes of memory, nature, personal growth, and the sublime, which are explored within the body of the poem. It suggests that this revisitation is not merely physical but also an introspective journey, examining the impact of time on both the landscape and the poet himself. In summary, the title of Tintern Abbey is a meticulously crafted entry point into Wordsworth's contemplations, integrating the lyrical with the geographical and the temporal, setting up the poem as a profound engagement with nature, memory, and the passage of time. It highlights the importance of the specific moment and place in eliciting the poet's reflective state, thus grounding the poem's universal themes in a tangible reality. Summary of the poem, Tintern Abbey. Lines composed a few miles above Tintern Abbey, is both a reflection on nature's enduring beauty and a meditation on personal growth and change. Written by William Wordsworth, this poem captures his return to the Wye River Valley after an absence of 5 years. In the opening lines of the poem, Wordsworth sets the scene by describing his return to a familiar landscape near Tintern Abbey after an absence of 5 years. He notes the unchanged beauty of the natural scenery, the cliffs, the river, the woods, and paints a picture of a timeless, tranquil place that stands in contrast to the changes within himself and the world he usually inhabits. This juxtaposition establishes a central theme: the contrast between the temporal human experience and the seemingly eternal nature of the landscape. Wordsworth moves from describing the physical landscape to exploring how his previous experiences of this place have lingered in his memory, influencing his feelings and thoughts even when physically absent from it. He recounts how the memories of these landscapes provided solace and spiritual sustenance during times of distress or alienation in urban environments. This emphasizes the romantic notion of nature as a restorative and moral force that remains within the human psyche. Here, Wordsworth delves into the evolution of his relationship with nature. Initially, his connection was driven by an aesthetic appreciation and the youthful pleasure of sensory experiences. Over time, this relationship deepened into a more profound, almost spiritual communion with nature. Wordsworth presents nature as a living guide that offers joy and moral enlightenment, suggesting that his maturity has led him to recognize a more intrinsic value in natural beauty, a source of perennial wisdom and a wellspring for a higher, more philosophical understanding of life. Reflecting on his current visit, Wordsworth contrasts his matured perceptions with his youthful experiences. He suggests that while his earlier responses to nature were governed by the fleeting pleasures of sight and sound, he now engages with the landscape through a tempered, more reflective lens. This section reinforces the idea of personal growth and the deepening of one's inner life through continual engagement with nature, highlighting the enduring impact of these natural experiences on his philosophical outlook. Wordsworth explores the profound connection between the human mind and nature. He suggests that nature is not only a physical space but also a metaphysical realm that the mind can merge with to glean universal truths. This interaction elevates his thoughts, providing a sublime joy that transcends ordinary experiences. This idea underlines a key romantic belief in the transcendent power of nature, capable of lifting the human spirit beyond the mundanity of everyday life. Turning to his sister Dorothy, who accompanies him, Wordsworth expresses hope that the memories of their current experience will continue to nurture them in the future. He extends his personal revelations to her, hoping that she too will find in nature a moral and spiritual resource. This section emphasizes the shared human capacity to find deeper meanings in nature and suggests a communal aspect of these experiences, reinforcing the idea of nature as a universal source of renewal and ethical grounding. Wordsworth concludes by contemplating the enduring impact of these natural scenes on their future lives. He hopes that whether they return physically or simply recall these experiences in memory, the influence of this place will continue to provide peace, joy, and moral guidance. This closure encapsulates the poem's themes of memory, the passage of time, and nature's role in shaping human consciousness and ethical perceptions. In essence, the poem is a profound meditation on the power of nature to influence and shape the human experience, serving as a catalyst for personal growth and spiritual enlightenment. Wordsworth uses his revisitation to the Wye Valley as a framework to discuss broader themes of memory, continuity, and the nurturing role of nature in fostering a deeper understanding of life and oneself. Critical analysis of the poem, Tintern Abbey. Tintern Abbey, formerly known as Lines Composed a Few Miles Above Tintern Abbey, on revisiting the banks of the Wye during a tour, July 13, 1798, is one of William Wordsworth's most celebrated poems and is often considered a central work in the Romantic literature canon. The poem, composed in blank verse, offers rich insights into Wordsworth's perspectives on nature, memory, and the human psyche. Written during a time of personal introspection and philosophical exploration for Wordsworth, Tintern Abbey reflects his maturing views on nature and its relationship to the human condition. The poem was penned after a walking tour with his sister, Dorothy Wordsworth, in the Wye Valley. Wordsworth had visited the area 5 years prior, and the poem is a meditation on his return. It comes at the end of the period often referred to as his Great Decade, during which he produced much of his most influential work, including the majority of the poems that would be published in Lyrical Ballads. The poem is structured as a single, flowing meditation divided informally into sections that reflect changes in focus. It is written in blank verse, which is unrhymed iambic pentameter, giving it a natural, flowing rhythm that mimics natural speech, aligning well with romantic ideals of expression and spontaneity. Wordsworth uses the natural landscape of the Wye Valley and the ruins of Tintern Abbey as a backdrop to explore his complex relationship with nature. Initially, he describes the physical landscape, rolling hills, the winding river, and sylvan scenes, which he credits with providing him sensations sweet, felt in the blood, and felt along the heart. Nature, for Wordsworth, is a source of sublime feelings that also lead to a tranquil restoration of the soul. Memory plays a crucial role in Tintern Abbey. Wordsworth reflects on his previous visit and notes how his memories of these natural scenes have sustained him. He describes how these memories, even when he was away from this tranquil place, had the power to refresh his spirit during moments of fretful stir, unprofitable, and the fever of the world. The poem, thus, explores the temporality of human life and the eternal quality of nature, suggesting a transcendental connection between the two through memory. Wordsworth presents himself as a mediator between nature and humankind, suggesting a spiritual or almost religious role for the poet. His reflections lead him to affirm the healing power of nature, which he considers a moral guide and a source of authentic existence. His evolving relationship with nature also shows a progression from a youthful pleasure in its sensory aspects to a more mature appreciation of its deeper spiritual benefits. The poem has distinct pantheistic overtones, where God, nature, and the human soul are seen as interconnected. Wordsworth's nature is imbued with a divine presence that elevates and moralizes the human spirit, a key romantic idea that departs from the strict religious orthodoxy of earlier periods. An important but often understated element of the poem is the presence of Dorothy Wordsworth, his sister, who is directly addressed in the latter part of the poem. Dorothy's influence is significant as she represents an ideal companion who shares similarly profound connections with nature. Wordsworth hopes that his memories will be as sustaining for Dorothy as they have been for him, underscoring the communal aspect of shared experience. Tintern Abbey is celebrated not only for its pioneering ideas in Romanticism but also for its innovative use of language and verse. It exemplifies Wordsworth's belief in the power of a spot of time, a moment that captures and sustains the sublime, which would influence not only peers like Samuel Taylor Coleridge but also later poets and thinkers. In conclusion, Tintern Abbey is not merely a reflection on a physical location but a profound exploration of the interconnections between place, time, memory, and the human psyche. It encapsulates the quintessential romantic emphasis on introspective exploration and highlights Wordsworth's deep commitment to the idea that nature is both a physical presence and a profound, spiritually uplifting force in the world. Question and answers. Q1. Wordsworth's poem, Lines, composed a few miles above Tintern Abbey, on revisiting the banks of the Wye during a tour. July 13, 1798, is usually just referred to as Tintern Abbey. But what effect does the very specific placing, both physical and chronological, in the title achieve? Ans. The full title of Wordsworth's poem, Lines, composed a few miles above Tintern Abbey, on revisiting the banks of the Wye during a tour. July 13, 1798, achieves several significant effects through its precise and detailed placement, both physical and chronological. By including the specific date, July 13, 1798, Wordsworth anchors the poem in a particular historical moment. This was a time of significant social and political upheaval, with the aftermath of the French Revolution and the ongoing conflicts in Europe influencing the intellectual and emotional landscapes of the period. The date also aligns with the publication of the Lyrical Ballads in the same year, signaling a time of profound personal and artistic development for Wordsworth. The reference to "a few miles above Tintern Abbey" and "the banks of the Wye" provides a clear geographical setting that enhances the imagery within the poem. Tintern Abbey, a ruin by the time Wordsworth wrote the poem, evokes themes of decay and continuity, nature reclaiming the works of man, and the enduring power of spiritual and natural beauty. By situating the poem above the actual ruins, in the natural landscape of the Wye Valley, Wordsworth shifts focus from historical ruins to the timeless qualities of the natural environment, emphasizing the influence of nature over human constructs. The mention of revisiting indicates that this is not Wordsworth's first encounter with this landscape. This adds a layer of personal history and emotional depth to the poem, as the speaker reflects not only on the physical landscape but also on his own changes since his last visit. This revisitation theme is central to the poem's exploration of memory, personal growth, and the interplay between the individual's internal world and external surroundings. By specifying the exact date, Wordsworth adds a sense of immediacy and temporal specificity. This not only helps to chronicle his own life's journeys but also invites the reader to consider the significance of time in their understanding of change and permanence. The date stamps the reflections and emotions expressed in the poem as responses to both the immediate experience of the revisited place and the accumulated memories of past visits. The detailed title sets the stage for a poem that is contemplative and meditative, suggesting that the ensuing verses are not just casual observations but are deeply considered thoughts arising from a specific moment in time and space. This can be seen as a declaration of the poem's intentions to explore complex themes of memory, nature, and the human condition through the lens of a particular personal and historical context. Overall, the precise placement in the title of Tintern Abbey serves to enrich the poem's themes and to foreground its contemplative nature, blending personal history with broader philosophical inquiry and situating these within a vividly rendered natural landscape. This approach reflects the romantic ideal of deep, introspective engagement with both the self and the natural world as interconnected realms of exploration and discovery. Q2. Why does the speaker keep referring to Dorothy's wild eyes? Why are her eyes wild? Is that supposed to be a good thing? Anne's. In William Wordsworth's Tintern Abbey, the reference to Dorothy's wild eyes is a significant and evocative descriptor, rich in connotations and layered with meaning. Wordsworth, in employing this phrase, emphasizes several key aspects of Dorothy's personality, their relationship, and the broader themes of the poem. The adjective wild often connotes something natural, untamed, and free from societal constraints. By describing Dorothy's eyes as wild, Wordsworth may be highlighting her deep, innate connection to nature, a quality he deeply cherishes and finds in himself as well. This natural or wild aspect is positive, suggesting a purity of perception and an unmediated, passionate engagement with the world. Wild eyes also suggests intensity and a capability to perceive things with a deep emotional or spiritual insight. Dorothy's gaze, thus described, might be seen as penetrating beyond the surface, capturing the essence of the natural beauty around her and possibly perceiving it in a way that is enlightened or visionary. Dorothy was significantly younger than Wordsworth, and her wild eyes could symbolize the youthful energy and potential he saw in her. This vitality is something Wordsworth, feeling the weight of his own years and experiences, both admires and envies. Her fresh perspective and vivacity could also remind him of his own past, when he first experienced the transformative power of nature. In the context of romantic poetry, such a description is decidedly positive. The Romantics valued emotion, intuition, and a primal connection to nature, often standing in opposition to the rationalism and industrialization that characterized the period. By using wild to describe Dorothy's eyes, Wordsworth aligns her with these romantic ideals. She is depicted as a kindred spirit who not only shares his deep affinity for the natural world but also embodies the qualities necessary to fully experience and benefit from it. The reference to Dorothy's wild eyes is also thematically significant in that it helps to reinforce the poem's central ideas about the healing and transformative powers of nature. By suggesting that Dorothy possesses an intense, almost primal understanding and appreciation of nature, Wordsworth is also expressing hope for her future. He wishes that she will continue to find solace and strength in nature, just as he has, and that her experiences in places like the Wye Valley will anchor her, offering spiritual sustenance and joy throughout her life. Thus, in the context of Tintern Abbey, the wild eyes are indeed meant to be a good thing, signifying a profound connection to the natural world, emotional depth, and a spirited, perceptive engagement with life. Q3. Wordsworth is especially known for the use of memory, especially the memory of childhood, in his poetry. What is the relationship between memory and identity in this poem? Ans. In Tintern Abbey, Wordsworth explores the intricate relationship between memory and identity in a deeply reflective and nuanced manner. The poem becomes a testament to how memories, especially those of nature and childhood experiences, shape and define one's sense of self. Wordsworth suggests that memories are not mere recollections of past events but are active, living influences that shape who we are in the present. His descriptions of his past visits to the Wye Valley and their lasting impact on him during times of solitude and introspection illustrate how these memories become part of his internal makeup. For Wordsworth, identity is not static but continually constructed and reconstructed through the interplay of past experiences and present consciousness. His memories of Tintern Abbey, therefore, are integral to his understanding of himself. They have nourished and shaped his mind and spirit. The poem posits memory as a source of comfort and moral guidance. Wordsworth recounts how, during difficult periods of his life, his recollections of the landscapes around Tintern Abbey provided him with solace and a sense of perspective. These memories remind him of a state of purity and tranquility and guide him back to those qualities when the noise of the everyday world becomes too overwhelming. This therapeutic aspect of memory reinforces his identity not only as a lover of nature but as someone who draws strength and moral lessons from it. There is also an underlying anxiety in the poem about the loss of these crucial memories and what that might mean for Wordsworth's identity. As he reflects on the changes he has undergone since his last visit, there is a fear that growing older and possibly becoming estranged from the natural world might lead to a loss of self. His repeated returns to the memories of his youth serve as a way to reaffirm who he is and to ensure that these parts of his identity are not lost. The inclusion of his sister, Dorothy, towards the end of the poem expands the role of memory from a personal to a communal dimension. Wordsworth expresses his hope that Dorothy will retain memories of their time together at Tintern Abbey and that these memories will continue to shape her identity in the same positive ways they have shaped his. This shared experience and memory create a bond that is both deeply personal and broadly humanistic, suggesting a collective identity rooted in shared experiences and values. Finally, Wordsworth's approach to memory in Tintern Abbey acknowledges that while memories shape identity, they are also subject to the changes and developments one undergoes over time. The poet's revisiting of the same physical space at different times allows him to reflect on how his identity has evolved and how his relationship with nature, which is central to his identity, has deepened and matured. Through Tintern Abbey, Wordsworth profoundly articulates how memory serves as a cornerstone of identity, providing continuity, a sense of belonging, and a framework for understanding one's place in the world. It is through the recollection of past experiences that identity is both rediscovered and renewed, highlighting the essential interdependence of memory and the self. Q. 4. Does Wordsworth really use the real language of men in Tintern Abbey, as he claimed he would do in the preface to Lyrical Ballads? Ands. In the preface to Lyrical Ballads 1798, William Wordsworth famously argues for the use of the real language of men in poetry, advocating for simple, direct, and unadorned language that reflects everyday speech. This was a deliberate departure from the elevated and ornate style prevalent in much 18th-century poetry. His goal was to present poetry that was more accessible and relatable to a wider audience. In examining the poem, Tintern Abbey, it is clear that Wordsworth makes a significant effort to adhere to his own poetic philosophy, but it is not an absolute application of the real language of men. Wordsworth does use some colloquial expressions and simple language in the poem, which aligns with his commitment to using language that is close to everyday speech. For example, phrases such as, "these plots of cottage ground," or, "this green pastoral landscape," are straightforward and accessible. Despite his intention to use everyday language, Wordsworth's style in Tintern Abbey often leans toward a more elevated and formal diction. Phrases such as "lofty cliffs" and "hermit's cave" carry a poetic, almost otherworldly quality that is somewhat removed from everyday speech. The poem's syntax can be complex at times, with long sentences and intricate structures that challenge the straightforwardness of everyday language. The use of enjambment and varied poetic forms can make the language more intricate than Wordsworth's initial claim suggests. Tintern Abbey delves deeply into philosophical and introspective thoughts, which often leads Wordsworth to employ language and concepts that are more sophisticated and reflective than one might find in ordinary conversation. The depth of his meditations on memory, nature, and personal growth demands a more nuanced and refined use of language. While the poem may not strictly adhere to the use of plain, everyday language as described in the preface, Wordsworth's choices in Tintern Abbey effectively convey the depth of his experience and the complexity of his reflections. His language elevates the subject matter and captures the profound emotional and intellectual impact of his connection with nature. In summary, although Tintern Abbey demonstrates Wordsworth's use of relatively accessible language and themes, it also exhibits moments of elevated diction and complex syntax that depart from the everyday speech he championed in the preface to lyrical ballads. Nevertheless, these linguistic choices serve to enhance the poem's emotional and philosophical depth, illustrating Wordsworth's ability to adapt his principles of poetic language to suit his thematic purposes. Q. 5. Does the consciousness of the still, sad music of humanity have to come from a close relationship with nature, or could it be developed from another source? Ans. The phrase, still, sad music of humanity, in Wordsworth's Tintern Abbey, refers to the somber, reflective, and often poignant aspects of human experience. Wordsworth suggests that his close relationship with nature has been the source of his understanding and appreciation of this aspect of human life. However, the consciousness of the still, sad music of humanity can also be developed from other sources beyond a direct relationship with nature. Human experience itself, particularly moments of sorrow, loss, and reflection, can lead to an understanding of the still, sad music of humanity. Life's challenges, struggles, and emotional experiences provide ample opportunities for individuals to engage with and contemplate the more somber aspects of existence. This engagement can lead to a deeper appreciation of life's transitory and fragile nature. Exposure to art and literature that grapple with themes of suffering, mortality, and the complexities of human life can also foster a consciousness of the still, sad music of humanity. Artistic works often serve as mirrors to the human condition, providing insight into universal experiences and emotions. Philosophical reflection on the nature of life, death, and the human experience can lead to an awareness of the somber aspects of existence. Philosophers have long grappled with questions about the meaning of life and the inevitability of suffering, which can cultivate a deeper understanding of the human condition. Empathy and the ability to connect with the experiences of others can also lead to a consciousness of the still, sad music of humanity. By listening to the stories and struggles of others, individuals can gain a broader perspective on the shared challenges and sorrows that are part of the human experience. An awareness of history and cultural contexts, particularly those marked by conflict, injustice, or hardship, can also inform an understanding of the still, sad music of humanity. Observing the trials and tribulations of others across time and place can lead to a deeper appreciation of the enduring aspects of the human condition. While Wordsworth's consciousness of the still, sad music of humanity is closely tied to his intimate relationship with nature, the understanding and appreciation of this aspect of human experience can indeed arise from other sources. These include personal experiences, engagement with art and literature, philosophical inquiry, empathy, and historical awareness. Ultimately, a deep understanding of life's sorrows and complexities can emerge from a variety of encounters and reflections on the world and the human experience. Q. 6. In Tintern Abbey, Wordsworth uses the word nature to mean more than material objects such as wildlife, trees, and mountains. How does he describe nature? What is Wordsworth saying about the effect nature has on his soul? Is the speaker's relationship to nature something that is possible for anyone? Why or why not? Ans. In Tintern Abbey, Wordsworth's concept of nature extends far beyond the material realm of wildlife, trees, and mountains. He describes nature as a profound and transcendent force that encompasses the physical world but also serves as a source of spiritual, emotional, and intellectual nourishment. Wordsworth views nature as a sanctuary where he finds comfort and peace. The natural world provides him with a sense of calm and relief from the tumult of life, serving as a refuge where he can reflect and be restored. Nature offers Wordsworth wisdom and insight, guiding him towards a deeper understanding of life and the human experience. He describes it as a teacher and anchor that shapes his mind and soul, helping him navigate life's challenges and uncertainties. Nature imbues Wordsworth with a sense of the sublime and the sacred. He speaks of the mind of man being laid asleep by the sense sublime of the natural world. This spiritual connection allows him to perceive a greater order and meaning in the universe. Wordsworth appreciates the aesthetic beauty and sensory experiences nature provides. He revels in the sights and sounds of the Wye Valley, which evoke deep emotions and memories, strengthening his sense of connection to the world. Wordsworth describes nature as having a profound effect on his soul. It shapes his moral and emotional compass, instilling in him a sense of reverence and awe. Nature provides him with elevated thoughts and a deep appreciation for the interconnectedness of all things. Wordsworth's relationship with nature is deeply personal and tied to his own experiences and perceptions. However, he seems to suggest that a similar relationship with nature is possible for anyone who approaches it with openness and reverence. He emphasizes that nature is accessible to all and can offer solace, inspiration, and spiritual fulfillment. Nevertheless, the extent of this relationship may vary depending on an individual's personal experiences, background, and willingness to engage with nature in a meaningful way. While not everyone may experience nature in the same profound and transformative manner as Wordsworth, the potential for a deep connection and the benefits it brings are available to anyone who seeks it. In Tintern Abbey, Wordsworth paints a rich and multifaceted portrait of nature that transcends the physical world to encompass spiritual, emotional, and intellectual dimensions. Nature plays a central role in shaping Wordsworth's soul and guiding him towards a greater understanding of himself and the world. While he believes that others can also form a meaningful relationship with nature, the depth of this connection may depend on an individual's approach and receptiveness. Q. 7. In William Wordsworth's poems, he speaks of nature as a religion. Instead of using religion to find answers, he uses the beauty of nature to find peace within himself. Why does he turn to nature instead of religion for peace? What does this say about his character and the role of nature in his life, both physically and spiritually? Is it necessary for everyone to have such a spiritual outlet such as this? Why or why not? Ans. In William Wordsworth's poetry, nature often serves as a source of spiritual solace and enlightenment, playing a role akin to religion in his quest for peace and understanding. This preference for nature over organized religion as a means of finding peace reveals much about his character and the role of nature in his life. Wordsworth's personal experiences and profound connection with nature allow him to find a sense of spirituality and peace outside of traditional religious structures. Nature provides him with moments of transcendence and clarity that align with his deepest values and beliefs. Wordsworth's emphasis on nature might reflect a skepticism or dissatisfaction with organized religion. By turning to nature instead, he can engage directly with the source of his spirituality without the intermediaries and dogmas often associated with institutionalized faith. Wordsworth experiences nature as a living presence, one that is active and responsive to his thoughts and emotions. This personal, dynamic relationship with nature fosters a sense of awe and reverence, similar to what one might find in religious worship. Nature is universally accessible and inclusive, in contrast to religious institutions that may be exclusive or divisive. Wordsworth's turn to nature for peace suggests a belief in the universality and interconnectedness of all things, offering a spiritual experience that is open to all. Wordsworth's reliance on nature for spiritual guidance and peace suggests a strong sense of independence and confidence in his own experiences and perceptions. He trusts his instincts and observations, valuing personal experience over received wisdom. His emphasis on nature underscores his belief in the importance of individual experience and perception in shaping one's understanding of the world. This aligns with the Romantic ideal of self-discovery and the primacy of personal, authentic experiences. Nature plays a central role in Wordsworth's life both physically and spiritually. He finds solace, inspiration, and moral guidance in the natural world, which serves as a touchstone for his thoughts and emotions. While Wordsworth's relationship with nature provides him with spiritual peace and fulfillment, it may not be necessary for everyone to find such an outlet in nature specifically. People are diverse in their beliefs, values, and experiences, and the means by which individuals find peace, meaning, and spiritual fulfillment can vary widely. Some individuals may find spiritual solace in organized religion, art, philosophy, human relationships, or other pursuits. What is important is that each person finds a source of peace and meaning that resonates with them personally. Wordsworth's turn to nature for spiritual peace and understanding reveals his deep connection to the natural world and his belief in the power of personal experience. While his approach may not be necessary for everyone, it offers an example of how individuals can find spiritual fulfillment outside of traditional religious structures, emphasizing the importance of authentic, personal experiences in shaping one's understanding of the world and one's place within it. Q. 8. Tintern Abbey itself is a ruin, just over the border from England into Wales. Both the abbey itself and the surrounding countryside were beginning to be popular tourist destinations at the end of the 18th century. Where is Wordsworth situated in the poem, and how does the abbey appear in it? Anne's. In William Wordsworth's poem, lines composed a few miles above Tintern Abbey, on revisiting the banks of the Wye during a tour. July 13, 1798. Commonly known as Tintern Abbey, the poet is situated physically in a specific location near the River Wye, a few miles above Tintern Abbey itself. He is revisiting the area after a period of 5 years since his last visit. Wordsworth situates himself along the banks of the River Wye, overlooking the pastoral landscape surrounding the river. He is not directly within the ruins of Tintern Abbey itself, but instead observes the scenery from a vantage point above the abbey. From his position, Wordsworth takes in the natural beauty of the surrounding countryside, which includes lush green fields, the river, woods, and distant mountains. This picturesque setting becomes the backdrop for his meditation on nature, memory, and personal growth. The actual ruins of Tintern Abbey receive minimal direct attention in the poem. Wordsworth does not describe the abbey in detail, nor does he focus on its architectural or historical aspects. Instead, the poem emphasizes his emotional and spiritual response to the broader landscape. While Tintern Abbey is not a central focus, its presence is symbolic. The ruins of the abbey represent the passage of time, the enduring presence of history, and the intersection of the human and natural worlds. The abbey serves as a touchstone for Wordsworth's reflections on memory, continuity, and change. The contrast between the enduring vitality of the natural landscape and the decaying ruins of Tintern Abbey underscores Wordsworth's themes of the power and permanence of nature compared to the transience of human endeavors. Although Wordsworth does not explicitly describe Tintern Abbey, its existence in the background adds depth to his meditation on the natural world and his introspective journey. The abbey's presence evokes a sense of timelessness and provides context for his reflections on the human experience. In Tintern Abbey, Wordsworth is physically situated near the River Wye, observing the surrounding landscape from a distance. While the abbey itself receives minimal direct attention in the poem, its symbolic presence enhances the themes of memory, continuity, and the enduring power of nature. Wordsworth's reflections on the natural world are shaped by his experiences in this serene and evocative setting.